Hi, I'm Steven and I make cardboard costumes and props. Today I'm making a Cowboy Spider-Man mask and hat out of cardboard and a t-shirt. Let's get started. As always, the free template is linked in the description of the video. This mask starts off with a cardboard frame. Think of it like glasses, but a superhero mask. I cut out the pieces, taped them onto cereal box cardboard, and cut those out. This is the layout for those pieces. Once they were cut out, I taped them together. That includes pushing the edges of the eyepiece together and securing it with tape. Considering the frame is going to be covered in fabric, I really didn't care if the tape showed up on the front of the frame and looked really messy. It doesn't bother me. It's all going to get covered up. If you're following along, just push the edges together until it looks somewhat like a superhero mask. Oh, and don't forget to tape on the little earpieces on either end. See, the frame looks like glasses. Okay, fabric time! I trimmed the borders off of the pages, taped them together until I got a big triangle. I traced it onto red fabric and cut it out. My fabric is an XXL shirt that I got from Michaels. It was only $2, so maybe you want to do that. But if your fabric isn't long enough to get the very ends of the triangle, it should still work, so don't worry about it. But yeah, I cut the triangle out of the fabric and then taped the paper template to a window. And then I taped the fabric triangle on top of that paper template. The window kind of acts as a giant light box, and I can see the lines of the template through the fabric. Pretty cool, right? I traced all of the lines with a pencil, took it down, and moved back over to my desk. All these pencil lines are going to get covered in puffy paint. If you don't have puffy paint, feel free to use a black marker, it'll look the same. Since I have actually never worked with puffy paint before, I decided to work on the ends first, just in case I made a mistake. It really wasn't hard to do, so I quickly moved on to painting all of the rest of the webbing, and some of my lines might be a little uneven and bumpy, but my gosh, they kind of look beautiful on camera. I'm pretty impressed with myself, because I really thought I was going to have a uneven, messed up line. So the puffy paint takes a few hours to dry, but once it was completely dry, it was time to glue the fabric part onto the cardboard frame. And you see that big line at the top of the template? I put that there because that's going to be the fabric that gets folded over the top of the mask. I lined the center of the spider web between the eyes and slowly, very slowly, glued the fabric to the mask. A light layer of Mod Podge went between the eyes and on the nose of the cardboard frame, and then hot glue was added to the back side of the forehead so the fabric that's folded over can be secured down. When I was happy with the way that it looked, I cut some lines in the eyes and then carefully folded back and glued down the ends of that fabric before moving on to building the eyes. So the eyes are incredibly simple. The eyes are cut out of cereal box cardboard, the lenses are cut out of mesh. Feel free to use window mesh, perforated vinyl, fabric mesh, plastic mesh, whatever you have laying around that you can see through. The eyes were painted black and the lenses were painted white, and then when the paint was completely dried, I glued them onto the back of the eyes. It's a cool looking lens, right? Once they were glued together, I delicately glued each eye onto the front of the fabric mask and really took my time to glue them evenly. After that, it was done, and all I needed to do was pick off all of those annoying, non-stop hot glue threads that show up everywhere when you're hot gluing near fabric. But wait, Cowboy Spider-Man needs a hat, right?
Ooh, doggy.
If you already own a cowboy hat, feel free to just use that, but this is cardboard cosplay, so I gotta make it out of cardboard. This template has a hat and a brim. I worked on the hat portion first. I lined up the pages, taped them together, cut down all the solid black lines, and then traced this wonky shape onto flimsy poster board. You can totally use a cardboard soda or beer carton for this too. That's actually what heavily inspired this project, and I'll link my inspiration video in the description of this video too. But I used poster board and cut it out. I also made sure to score the dotted lines in the middle of this shape. Scoring just means that I did not cut all the way through. You do not want to cut all the way through in the center. I used those scored lines in the center to help guide my folds. I took one of the diagonal pieces and pushed it inward so the edge of that diagonal would line up with a scored line. I hot glued it down and then pushed the diagonal on the other side inward to line up with a scored line on that side. This starts shaping the hat. I did the same thing for the opposite side of the hat before moving on to the rectangle pieces on each side of the hat. All I did here was glue the piece inward, lining up the corner of the rectangle with the slanted edge of the side. Hopefully the visual in the video makes it make more sense than my narration. Basically, you want to form a bucket. That's kind of what you're going for. And once that bucket was glued together, I brought the paper template back to help me cut fringed tabs all around the edges. The black lines on the template just shows you how long the tabs need to be. After all of them were cut out, I bent the tabs outward, pushed it aside, and moved on to the brim. Just like the bucket, the brim is also 4 pages. I taped them together, cut them out, but since I ran out of poster board, I decided to tape together 2 cereal boxes to make a big sheet of cardboard. I then traced the brim onto the big sheet, cut it out, and added a little glue to secure the edges together. After that, I just slid it over the bucket. I was surprised how good of a fit it was, so all I needed to do was glue down each of the tabs to the underside of the brim. This went really quickly, and it wasn't long until the bucket was securely glued to the brim. However, the underside of the hat was looking kinda messy, so I decided to cover it up with a second brim. I cut it out the exact same way as the first, but this time I used white glue to glue the 2 brims together. I let that glue dry completely, flipped the hat back over, and carefully pushed down on the top of the hat so it would curve inward. The flimsy poster board is really delicate, so it bends easily, so I shaped it until how I liked how it looked, trimmed the edges of the brim, and then painted the entire hat in brown and black craft paint. The reason I mixed together brown and black was to get a dark brown. I painted everything in 2 coats because I'm anal, but 1 coat looked absolutely fine, so feel free to just do 1 coat if you're following along. As the paint dried, I made a little badge for the front of the hat out of cereal box cardboard, painted it black and then silver, and yeah, all that's left is to tie the badge to the hat with yarn, and it's time for the glamour shots. So there you have it, the Cowboy Spider-Man mask made out of cardboard. I really like how it turned out and hope you guys like it too. It's a very easy Spider-Man mask that requires 0 sewing, which is my favorite thing since I don't own a sewing machine. I've been wanting to make a Web Slinger costume all year, so I'm happy I finally got around to it. He also wears a poncho, but honestly, just throw a blanket around your shoulders and it's gonna look legit. Oh, and maybe a squirt gun to spray your friends too. Anyway, I'd love it if you guys liked this video and subscribed for more cardboard costumes and props. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.